hype. Hawes is 4-2 in the UFC, and his only losses are to Chris Curtis and Roman Dolidze, who are ranked inside of the top 15. And now guess what? He gets to welcome a debuting fighter to the promotion in one Ikram Aliskerov, who only has one loss. An uppercut knockout against Hamzat Chimaev with Brave. So, some wild stuff when you do consider a matchup like this. Again, Phil Hawes is a known commodity. You knew him from the Ultimate Fighter Season 23, when in the preliminary rounds, he lost Andrew Sanchez, who won the season at light heavyweight. So then he goes to World Series, wins a fight, loses to eventual PFL millionaire Lewis Taylor, then takes a little bit of time off, goes on Dana White's Contender Series, has a Fight of the Year contender against Julian Marquez, gets finished, goes out there and rebuilds himself. And the craziest part about this matchup is Phil Hawes fought with Brave at the same time that Ikram Aliskerov was over there, but the paths never crossed. And Phil continued to win. He had a giant win streak coming into the UFC. He kicked it off with some performance bonuses. And then if you do look at those last three fights, he loses. And it really was a tough fight against Chris Curtis, favored to win that one. He goes out there against Jourdain Win and beats him apart. Just sent him outside of the UFC packing. So he gets a big win there, performance bonus, and then again, the loss to Roman Dolidze. So if you look at it, Matt, I mean, he has been finished in a lot of these losses. He really has. And if you flip the script and look at a guy like Ikram Aliskerov, and again, only has that one loss. Four-time World Combat Sambo champion, 2014, 15, 16, and 17. Parlays that forward into such an interesting MMA career because the level of competition's kind of all over the place with Brave. He goes over to Eagle FC. Remember that time they had that fight in Florida that one time?
I did.
Kevin Lee fought Diego Sanchez. Ikram Aliskerov fought UFC vet Nashawn Burrell. And he was like glue on him. And that was pretty much the whole fight. You didn't get to see any of Ikram's striking, which you did see over with Brave. And he had a very extensive record over with Brave. So again, like glue on Burrell. And then his last time out, he goes over on Dana White's Contender Series. And I mean, he was taking on Mario Souza. Noted kickboxer, not grappler, and in that one he was able to mix things up. He did get tagged a little bit as the fight started, but Aliskerov was able to take over and get the finish win, and it was a surprise that Aliskerov even had to fight on Contender Series, knowing how good he was. So all of a sudden, you fight on Contender Series, you prove it, now you get a guy who has a winning UFC record and has only lost to top 15 contenders.
It's a really wild position for Ikram to find himself in, and that's the thing about Phil Hawes. Have we ever questioned the skills of Phil Hawes? No, I don't think so. He is a tremendously skilled fighter. You saw that really just on display in the Jourdain Win fight. He was landing boxing combinations, the elbows, like everything was really flowing for him. He was able to defend takedowns. He has offensive takedowns of his own. Like, he is a tremendously skilled fighter.
So if you look at it for Ikram, again, Combat Sambo is the base international master of sports there. Phil Hawes, he was a JUCO national champ at, Iowa Central Community College, and then he went on to wrestle at Iowa State. So Phil Hawes is that guy when it comes to wrestling, but he gets it done with his hands in these fights.
That's what I was saying. And the thing is, though, for Ikram, I am going to be curious to see if Phil Hawes can make him uncomfortable on the feet. Because when Phil Hawes is in your face, making it ugly with his own boxing, he can have a lot of success. But even in fights that Phil Hawes has won in the UFC, he can get tagged and can get hurt. And we've seen it happen enough times to where I am a little bit concerned about him if he is starting to eat some of the straight shots from a guy like Ikram. Because if Phil Hawes isn't able to get on the inside and start to land his own power shots, I worry how much success he is going to have on the outside. Because his kicks are good for the legs, but he doesn't necessarily go to the body or the head all that much. His boxing's good from the outside, but he's not a guy who's going to work behind a ton of jabs like a Calvin Kattar, I guess, would be a good fighter. So I really do think the distance management is going to be important for Hawes, because if he's able to get on the inside, I think he's going to be a wrecking machine in this fight. I really think he's going to have a lot of success in that position.
And I mean, Phil Hawes in the UFC, 100% takedown defense. In the fight against Kyle Dawkins, he defended all 7 takedowns, so that's why the number is where it is. But if you look at Hawes getting ready for this fight, I mean, I could have Killcliff FC up there for the graphic on the second one that'll pop up for you, but if you actually look at it, Phil Hawes, this camp, Tiger Muay Thai, that's either a really good thing or the worst thing for your career. And we've seen fighters go there and have a ton of success, and then we've seen other fighters like Charles Johnson who talked about the fact that it's a 30-hour trip back over to just Vegas. You're going to New Jersey for this one, where Phil Hawes is a hometown guy all of a sudden. He's from New Jersey. So it'll be interesting to see how he's able to parlay that forward with his skills that he has already on the feet, accentuate those. We know how good his wrestling can be. But if you look at it for a guy like Ikram Aliskerov, again, against Souza, he did look really good. I go back to a few of the fights that he had with Brave before he came over. The fight against Miro Djurkovic, if you look at that one, Djurkovic had fought 2 weeks prior and looked a little slow out of the gate, and Aliskerov was able to push the pace. He goes out there and lands a heavy, steady diet of jabs. He'll then work in his right hand, and he really likes that left head kick from the lead leg, so look out for those when you watch a guy like Aliskerov. You know how good the takedowns can be. He has really good top pressure, but I go through the fight that he had against Gonzalez. Okay, so Gonzalez had fought Dan Hardy in 2006, and he beat him, He beat him by submission, but it was overturned due to punches to the back of the head. So then he goes out there and he fights Hardy again, he loses. So now all of a sudden, that fight was at 170. Years later, he's in his mid-30s and he's fighting at middleweight. And he was a little chunky around the middle. But in that one, Aliskerov was able to really land on him. And Gonzalez is able to do some work on the outside. Gonzalez shoots for a takedown. Aliskerov meets him with the knee, and it's like shin on head. Gets him down after that, gets on top, pounds away, ground and pound finish. The face never looked the same for Gonzalez. So a big win there for Aliskerov. But you go down and you look at it for the fighter representing formerly Brave, I guess. Weigh-ins have been an issue in the past. So first up in 2018, he took on Joey Birkenbosch, and he weighed 189.4 pounds for 185. When he took on Nashawn Burrell, he weighed in at 186.2, so he couldn't cut that extra 0.2 pounds, so that's a little tough. He has made it down at less than 185 pounds. He fought Shemaev at a catch weight of 180, and he weighed 175.8 for that one. So I'll be interested to see how Aliskerov makes out with these weigh-ins as the UFC career progresses, and especially for this one. You look at the odds in the matchup, Aliskerov more than a 2-1 favorite. We have a look at the Topology votes. Matt, surprise to us there to you. I'm going to say over under 75% Aliskerov.
I think they'll be slightly under.
They're going to be they're slightly over. 629 total votes, 83% Aliskerov, 58% by submission. For the 17% that have Hawes, 56% by knockout. So a high preponderance of finish in this fight. What do you make?
I could see this ending inside the distance without a doubt for either guy, to be completely honest, because I do think Phil Hawes does have that kind of power to hurt pretty much anybody on the feet. But again, I worry about him in some of those positions where he himself can have a lot of that success. So I will go with Aliskerov, but again, I think Phil Hawes can easily win this fight. Again, I've never questioned the skills of Phil Hawes. I think that has to be said.
I think Phil Hawes wins this fight. I think on the volume and the striking alone, he can get it done against Aliskerov. Aliskerov has great takedowns. Phil Hawes has great takedown defense. And I mean, even in Aliskerov's fight against Dennis Tululin, on some of those in-betweens, he was getting caught by the uppercuts, he was getting caught by the hooks, things that Phil Hawes can take over on. As that one went on, Tululin's power bar went way down and the takedowns became a lot easier. Aliskerov ends up winning by Kimura on top. So we'll see if Aliskerov can do that. I'm a huge fan of his. But I think in the matchup, it's a little bit too much too soon, although they know what they're doing with this matchmaking. So we're splitting the pick. I'm going with no hype Phil Hawes. Matt going with Ikram Aliskerov. Really want to hear from you down below in the comments section on this one. It is a tough fight down the line. At middleweight, some big-time fights left on this card. You are not going to want to miss any of it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.